Yo, what up, Street Dogs? Eric Kim. All right, so how to conquer fear. This is something I've been fascinated with my whole life. I'll just kind of share with you some practical thoughts. First and foremost, I found that studying Stoic philosophy has been good. Read Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and the OGs. And essentially, there's a two-pronged solution. First, you need to mentally strengthen yourself, and also you need to physically strengthen yourself. So if you really want to conquer fear, realize that it's not just a mental thing, it's actually a physiological thing. And actually, I think fear doesn't originate in the brain. Fear actually originates in our bodies. So I'll give you some practical things. The more I lift weights, the more muscular I become, the more I lose my body fat percentage, whatever. I'm actually less fearful. That's the first thing. Second thing, cut out the news, cut out the media. It's almost like the way I see social media, news, media, whatever, essentially it's like a shit sandwich. They're giving you a shit sandwich and you're like, oh, it smells so bad, it tastes horrible, but we keep eating it. And for some reason, we're addicted to eating the shit sandwich. And it seems like, and let's say shit is a metaphor for fear. How can you not feel shitty or feel fearful if you're always constantly eating the shit sandwich? It kind of makes no sense. So just cold turkey, cut out all news from your life, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 news, whatever, blogs, websites, anything like that. And also, I think one thing that's helped me too is that really meditating on why are you fearful, what is the source of your fear, and why do you feel fearful, and what are you really afraid of? And I think most people, we're afraid of death, right? We don't want to die. It's natural, it's a good thing, it's good fear. Fear of death is what prevents me from going skydiving or riding a motorcycle in the city and stuff like that. Because I optimally want to live to be 120 years old in fantastic health. So I don't want to go out and start licking doorknobs. It's not a good idea. But at the same time, I'm not too afraid of pain. I know I could deal with pain. I could withstand pain. And I think that's actually a nice thought is most people, even with death, they're not afraid of the death itself. They're afraid of the pain preceding the death. So for example, if you have terminal cancer, heart disease, whatever, we kind of have this notion of us dying slowly with a lot of pain in the hospital, pumped with meds. Nobody wants that, right? And so it seems that what we're really afraid of is pain. But once you realize you could deal with pain, what are you really, really afraid of? And so I feel like here the philosophy notion is actually very useful because once we could actually deconstruct why we're afraid and what we're really afraid of, then we could kind of do things. Another thing too, if you feel fearful, you're not really to blame. And truth be told, nobody is really to blame. I mean, fear is a physiological feeling of all these hormones and stuff like that. And for the most part, you can't really control your hormones. And just kind of ask yourself, what triggers your fear? And it's a very basic thing, right? Every time you check your email, check the news, you turn on the TV, you check social, you check Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. If you feel your body, if you feel the physiological feeling of fear enter your breast, heart rate, you could feel it, then that's a bad thing, right? And so just kind of figure out what is the trigger and then eliminate the trigger or the stimulus. It's a basic thing, right? Also just kind of realize, okay, I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but I'll tell you what worked for me. How I was able to conquer my personal fears is that realize that there is no conscious afterlife, meaning after you're dead, your atoms and your nutrition might go back to the soil, which turns into an avocado tree later, and one day someone will eat the avocado tree. Those notions are nice, Buddhist notions of impermanence, whatever. But I personally don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in a conscious life after death. And once you're dead, you don't feel pain anymore, and you're not, like, dying is the same thing as not ever being born at all. I think that comes from Lucretius or Epicurus, like De Rerum Natura or something, on the nature of things. So if you're not afraid of death, and you know you're not afraid of heaven or hell or whatever, then there's really kind of nothing to be really afraid of. And so conquering fear, think about it like being the mental, the physical, but also the social and the technological, social media, whatever. And it feels like once we could kind of tweak these variables, then we could conquer fear and become less fearful. And realize that, like, ultimately fear is still a good thing. A human totally devoid of fear is probably not good, because we wouldn't be able to do anything. And I think emotions are far more complex than we understand. But what I want to, because like sometimes fear is a good thing, is it can actually motivate us to action, but often fear is a bad thing where it discourages us or it pacifies us. So just kind of think, am I the slave of my own fear, or is slave my fear? And then based on this thinking, you can learn how to become the ultimate new Stoic.